Chapter 22, Chemo Be Gone. It finally came, the day of my last chemo treatment. When I started my chemo journey in the fall, February 1st seemed like it was a million miles away. There were days when I thought that I would never make it to the finish line. But just like everything else in life, there is a beginning and an ending. And this adventure was finally coming to an end. Mark and I had decided that this was an occasion worthy of checking the kids out of school for the day. Mama was only planning on ringing the chemo bell once, you know. The excitement flowing through our home that morning was palpable. Day 167 was going to be a great day. As we drove to the cancer center, I was a giant jittery ball of nerves and exhilaration. Unfortunately, I got a lap full of root beer because of it. Right as we were pulling into the parking lot, my cup slipped and the bubbly brown liquid drenched my new shirt and the passenger seat in Mark's car. As I watched the delicate pink lace trim get soaked with brown fluid, I felt the tears forming. That was not how I wanted to begin this beautiful day. Then, just like that, I snapped out of it. There was no time for crying over spilled root beer. I had a chemo journey to finish. I went through the usual check-in procedures, and then the moment arrived. I planted myself in the chemo recliner for the very last time. It was the last time that I would have to have that awful metallic taste in my mouth as they flushed my port to get it ready for the chemo. The last time I would have to watch the endless drip, drip, drip of the poison going into my veins. It would also be the last time that I would have to look forward to the evil Neulasta shot and all the thrilling side effects that came along with it. Excerpt from my journal. I was feeling very antsy and I couldn't make the time go by fast enough. But finally, the last drop had fallen and I was done. D-O-N-E. Time to ring the bell, baby. After the nurse unhooked me from all the IV tubes, the kids and I grabbed our stuff and headed over to the bell. My girls and I took hold of the rope that I had been waiting so long to touch. I had walked by that bell many times, looking at it longingly, and now my time had come. End quote. As I felt that scratchy rope in my hand, a jolt of rapture ran through me. It was time. Only a few weeks before that day, I had watched as someone else grabbed onto that rope and wring it like his life depended on it. As I had watched that person, I felt a strange mixture of love and hate racing through my heart. I felt love because I was so happy that he had reached that milestone in his journey, and I felt hate because I so desperately wanted that to be me. I'm sure that as I was ringing the bell, someone else was experiencing his or her own love-hate feelings. But I couldn't be bothered with thoughts of anyone else at that moment. As I rang that bell, I was in a moment of pure selfishness and joy. And it was a perfect moment until the heavy brass bell came crashing down on my little Abby Cadabby's hand. Not cool, chemo bell. Not cool. Fortunately, Abby was not hurt, and now that experience just makes the day that much more memorable for us. I suppose that we were on such a super adrenaline high that we didn't realize our own strength. After gently putting the bell back on the wall, we took our troop of supporters and headed home. Now that the bell ringing portion of this day was over, it was time to go home and participate in the dream come true that was waiting there for me. About 17 days before my last chemo treatment, I had written a blog post in which I had described a party that would be the perfect ending to the chemo chapter of my journey. For the party, I envisioned a ton of family and friends, pink balloons and streamers, pink cupcakes and drinks, a lot of laughing and hugging, and maybe even some shedding of happy tears. As I pondered the sublime party, I figured that it would only stay in my head because there was no way I was going to have the strength or energy to plan it. I got exhausted just thinking about it, and unfortunately, party planning was not one of Mark's strong suit. Enter my friend, Jen. Almost as soon as I had clicked publish for the blog post, she responded with an email that basically said, "You want a party? I've got that covered for you. Consider it a done deal." And she did not mess around either. The party ended up being everything I had imagined and more. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's go back to the drive home. Quote from my journal. Pulling onto our street was surreal. There were pink balloons on every light pole. When I actually saw the house, I could not believe my eyes. My yard was filled with pink balloons, as was my porch. There was a happy no more chemo day sign hanging by the front door and cars lining the driveway. We finally made it inside the house and I looked around at all of the wonderful people there. Most of them had come early to help decorate and everything looked amazing. There was one face in the crowd that I was totally shocked to see there. It was Melissa, my best friend from high school. She had driven all the way from southern Utah. She was only able to stay for the party and then would have to drive back home. Well, I immediately started crying. I could not believe it." End quote. From the moment I hugged Melissa until about 9 p.m. that night, it was nonstop partying. I felt so alive. It seemed as though my house had a revolving door, and I could not believe that all those people would take a few moments out of their busy lives to stop by and celebrate with me. My home was filled with treats, laughter, hugging, tears, and it looked like it had been bathed in Pepto-Bismol. It was absolutely perfect, and I couldn't have imagined a better way to say goodbye to chemo. I fell into my bed that night, exhausted, as I came down from the adrenaline-charged high I had been on. As I lay there with thoughts of the party swimming around in my head, I closed my eyes and congratulated myself. "You did it," I thought. And then I drifted off to sleep with a smile on my face and the knowledge that chemo was finally gone from my life.
High above the chimney top, that's where